All right, and sharing to my screen. All right, are you able to see that okay?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Thank you. So oftentimes when I meet with parents, there's kind of this idea or this maybe surprise that like everything that I grew up thinking was true about education and most parents I talk to is kind of the opposite of what I've come now to believe. And with some small shifts in the way that we think about learning and education, it can really offer our children a completely different opportunity and a different experience in school. So well, let's see, how do I move my slide? Okay. So basically, our school is so different because we realized as a young family of parents that what we thought was school and what school was providing to our children wasn't at all what actually mattered the most. So it sounds like we've already talked a little bit, but if you wonder if there's a better way that takes into account like the individuality of each person and their needs, then there is. Like we know that there is a way that is can meet a hero is what we call them. So if I say hero, I'm talking about students. We just don't call them students. And we can meet them where they're at and then help them decide what is best for their journey and help them to thrive in life. Um, so, kind of what we'll go over today is just one thing you need to understand to prepare your child for a future world that doesn't exist yet. I actually spoke to a mom yesterday and she was like, we just don't even know what the world's going to look like. And I'm like, yes, exactly. So, we have to be really deliberate about the things we want our children spending their time learning because what is actually going to help them prepare for that world and how to take your vision for your child's future and make it a reality and then how to intentionally choose the role that school plays for your family instead of kind of an accidental default, what it's always been, what the traditional system has kind of told us school is, and how to make sure that you choose a school that fulfills your need and your child's need. So really quick, I'll just do a little bit about myself. I grew up, my mom was a public school teacher for 38 years. And this is her right there. She ended up being a drama teacher. And this is one of her, I think, final classes of drama students before she retired. But this is so funny to me because I went to school in a really small town, Blackfoot, Idaho. This is my mom in the halls of Blackfoot, Idaho with her drama students. And I'm like, it's just such a small world. And I feel like it is definitely my foundation, but prepared me for this completely other life that I'm now living. But she was one of the very best teachers I ever knew. And getting choked up. Everyone loved her. And it's because she trusted the children could do more than other people thought. And she gave them responsibility. And so we'll talk a little bit more about that maybe. And then my dad was a pharmacist and also recently retired. So we like to joke. There were five of us kids that we were raised by a drama queen and a drug dealer. And so there's elements of truth to that entire thing.
Yeah.
Eventually, I have six children. We moved to Texas. And this is one of the only pictures of me and my six children during this time that when we moved to Texas, I started homeschooling. So prior to that, I'm in a small town, Blackfoot, Idaho, where my mom was a longtime teacher, knew all the teachers. My children had my third grade teacher in the same elementary school. So a very small, connected community. And it was great. Like I had good school experiences, but we moved to Texas, decide we're not going to school. I felt like I wanted to bring it home. Like I felt like the running around of the school and extracurriculars, like I just needed to bring my children home and kind of get centered. I didn't know what I was in for, but it was
Yeah.
a really crazy time. And this is one of the only pictures of that time because rarely did I have everyone gathered, or I don't even know. I was going to say smiling, but we're not all smiling. So um, eventually our homeschooling journey led us to, oh, there are more grown up. And my husband, Brad. So my husband, Brad, and I decided to open a school for our six children when we heard about Acton Academy. Nope. Why isn't it showing all this stuff? Oh, there it is. Okay. Anyways, we heard about this Acton Academy, read a book, and the short story is we're driving across the country because we have six kids and we don't stop to recharge their battery. We just drive all night And so I decided to read parts of this book about Acton Academy to Brad, and he said, "Well, what is this? How far is it? How much does it cost?" And eventually he said, "Hi, welcome." He said,
Hi.
do we need to start a school?" And I said, "Is that an option?" And then shortly after that, we had some of our homeschooling friends and like just decided, okay, here we go. Like this is not what we thought was happening for our life, but I'm already spending all the time trying to figure out how to school my children. And as I had done that, I learned that what I thought was real education, what I thought was important, was actually not at all what I wanted for my children. And there actually was a place that could provide that.
So this is just a snapshot of our website. The Acton Academy has received a lot. You can click again, Leanne, of notoriety with well-known authors and thought leaders like Seth Godin, Gary Vee, Jordan Peterson, and Sal Khan, and has been featured in some pretty big publications, as you'll see, because of this non-traditional way that we're approaching education. And not just that, but that it is actually working. If we do something so different, it can work to the benefit of our children. So we started with one small school, our 6 children, and a few families. And now, next slide, Leanne, we have 3 schools in the North Houston area, one in Magnolia, one in the Creekside, Tomball area, and one in the Champions Klein area. Can you go to that next slide, Leanne? Next. So we are a gold campus in the Acton Academy network and have just seen incredible growth with the communities and the reception of people in this area really want this model. And we just have some really fun communities being built in all of these. And actually I have to shout out to my husband, Brad. He's never been on one of these webinar calls, but he's on this one. So he'll, I'm sure, jump in and correct anything I say that is not right, which I do mess up a lot. So happy to have him on here. But our goal, we don't always tell people this, our goal is to have 20 schools in the North Houston area. And I credit that entirely to Brad, because at one of our Acton Academy owners conferences, the question was asked, do we grow slow and controlled, or do we grow fast and big? And he said, there is a right answer to this question. Every child deserves this. He said, our generation is lost. We don't know how to kindly disagree. We don't know how to have discourse that is respectful of another person's point of view. And we have to get this to as many children and families as possible. And so we're going to have 20 schools. And I was like, okay, all right. And so that is our bigger goal, is to help the North Houston area have a bunch of Acton Academies, because the community's there and the blessing it's been to our family and children. We can't even speak the blessings that has been for our family, and that will continue on for generations. Okay, so then after we opened our first school, Leanne, you can go to the next slide. I wrote a book about how to be a guide. Our campuses are accredited through the IALDS, and we get to work with parents all the time. And it is just such a blessing to work with so many families. That's just a little bit of background. I'm going to try and go fast because I want to get to your questions and make sure that we are talking about the things that you came here to learn. So I have a life-changing question for you. You can go ahead and hit the button, Leanne. Imagine that your child is 18 years old and they are ready to leave your home. What skills and experiences do you want, or do you feel are most important for them to have, so that you feel 100% confident that they are ready to thrive in life? And I will ask you to, if you can hop in the chat and chat something, please do. But I am going to take 2 or 3 comments because I think this is so important that we get clear in our own minds as parents about what is most important. And as you're coming up with your answers, go ahead and start putting them in. As you understand what's most important for you, for your children to experience before they leave your home, all of a sudden you have a new lens or a new rubric from which to choose a school, from how to decide what activities your family will participate in, for everything you do, because you now know that we're beginning with the end in mind. What do we want? What is most important? And that can be sort of your North Star to make these decisions. So, all right, let's see. We've got some people in our chat here. They know how to work hard. They need survival skills, critical thinking skills, and technology skills. We're just scratching the surface. Awesome. Let's see. I don't know if you
Yes,
can all
I agree with that 1000%.
tell me more. That was M. I don't have a first name
Hi,
M.
yeah, it's my initial. Hi, Michelle. What I think you're
Hi.
doing is wonderful. My nickname is Johnny for short. You can call me that.
I love that.
I'm
Okay, Johnny, what do you
I'm
think?
un,
What's the number one skill?
I'm under the weather, so forgive me. That's why I was
You're
off.
fine. You're fine.
I agree with the critical thinking and skills and things of that nature that they have to learn, especially with my child being on the spectrum. He's very intelligent, but there's other things, like you said, that are incorporated that are needed that should be encouraged because one point you made earlier where you said certain like debates and things can get certain people don't have the skills and it can get out of hand when they don't know how to control their emotions.
Oh, thank you so much for bringing up emotional intelligence.
That's very important. My
Yeah,
son
like
has
what
it.
are we doing if we're not helping our children learn that? Jeannie, I'm going to switch over. Oh, self-regulation, a similar comment. Jeannie, we have
Yeah.
4 children who are now adults. She says confidence within themselves so that they can succeed. I agree. If our children believe they can do what they need to do, they're going to be able to do it. But how do we have them in an environment where they can develop that confidence? And I can tell you this, if maybe write this down. How do we develop confidence? We are challenged to do hard things, and then we get to work hard to do them. That's how we develop confidence. It's not by giving an easy route, it's by giving children and expecting hard things and then helping them up when they fall down, just like all of us when we fall down. A couple more: emotional resilience, critical thinking skills, and self regulation. Thank you, Kate. We'd like to see my children apply themselves, sacrifice fun or easy. Yeah, taking the easy way out to get something that's more hard but rewarding. Grit, problem solving, critical thinking. Okay, so we have asked this question probably 1,000 times, and the list of things you guys are saying are almost exactly the same list that we get every single time. And that tells us something really important, that parents who are intentional and care about their child and their future, these are the kind of things that we need to be helping them do every day of their life. So, right now, the system that we have puts children in a place where 7.5 hours a day we are focused on gaining skills, but they're academic focused skills instead of these kind of skills. And what we've found in this journey is that we can have both. They can actually learn all of these problem solving, critical thinking, all of these skills in school while also learning their academic skills. And so that is just the big piece that's missing, is that they can do this at the same time. Let's give them their time in school to work for them. I was at the time I was putting together this presentation, I was talking to a parent who just summed it up perfectly. She said, I want my children to be prepared for life. Then there is a lot more to life than academics. And our schools are focused on academics. They're important skills. But if they don't have these other skills, having the academic skills doesn't really help them. So that's kind of our number one. School should not only be about academic learning. And this is that idea that we begin with the end in mind. And at our school, we have what we call the Next Grade Adventure program. So their last 2 years of high school. So wherever age your child is at, think about how old is my child right now or my children. Fast forward to that time we're talking about where they're 18 years old and they're ready to leave. What are the schools they need? And our Next Great Adventure experience deliberately helps prepare them for that experience. And there's this little screenshot here of the Launchpad Next Great Adventure. They they learn time management, goal setting for success, planning and execution, service and philanthropy. They become excellent communicators, both written and verbal. They find professional mentors. They know how to give presentations and pitches, and they have so much experience with group leadership and training. And here's why. It's not because we're so great. It's because we put them in an environment that allows them to practice these skills day after day, hour after hour from the time they're 5 years old. And then by the time they're 18, because we began with the end in mind and this idea of what do they really need to succeed in the real world, they have those skills. Often I have adults or parents that don't attend or don't even know about our school. And the comment they say is, they just think differently. Or I can't believe how they looked me in the eye and spoke to me, like speaking of the child, speaking to them like an adult. They were talking to me like an adult, but they're 7 years old. And it's because when the learners go to Acton, they don't know the difference. They just do this all the time. Okay, so now I have a question for you. I sort of already alluded to this, but does anyone know? You can either put it in the chat or you can just unmute and speak. How many hours a child spends in a K-12 school over the course of their life? Do some quick math. It does not quick for me. And I've asked this question so many times. Okay. Leanne, you can go to the next one. I don't see anyone giving me a number in the chat, but maybe you're still mathing. Go ahead and click. All right, over a K-12 lifetime, let's see. They spend roughly 7 hours a day in a school. That's 35 hours a week, not counting bus rides or car lines, probably 1,200 hours a year and over 16,000 hours spent in another environment outside of your home under the care of other adults surrounded by other children who are shaping who your child is becoming. So I just want to let that sink in for a minute. And I don't intend to say that this by itself is a negative, but when you think about the amount of time they are outside of our home being shaped by the people around them, it really, for me as a parent, helps me think I need to be really deliberate about this environment. What are we learning there? And is it being, has the environment been prepared and designed in a way to help my child get these skills that I've just identified are the most important? And when Brad and I asked this question of ourselves, we realized what we had always been doing the way we were raised, it wasn't providing what we felt was most important for our children. Again, we're talking about a world that doesn't exist yet. We don't know what kind of academic skills they necessarily need to survive there and to thrive, but we do know that these things that you all listed, problem solving, critical thinking, creating a network, having great communication skills, that and the confidence to do whatever they need to do, that is what's going to help them survive in life. So at Acton, we have what we call the 5 real life learning zones. And each of these is representative of a type of learning that happens at Acton. So the smallest one, I don't know how else to illustrate it, but the smallest and first that we have is the academic zone. This is the traditional academic learning that you would presumably get in any traditional setting, reading, writing, math, history, science, and that's it. So most schools are designed to provide that. And we hope they do. And I think that there are lots of people working to solve the problem of how do we provide this well in our world. But that's just one small piece of who your child deserves to become as they're being raised by you. And it's not even on our list. Do we notice that it's not even on our big list that we made together? So the next thing we focus on at Acton is real life skills and problem solving skills. I think that was probably listed the most in our list that we made together is how do they solve problems? And it's very intuitive of parents to realize if my child knows how to take a problem, think through it, and solve it, well, then they can actually do all of the academic stuff as well. They can figure out how to change tire if they need to. They can actually learn how to do any number of skills. So I kind of call this group of skills like the YouTube skills. If you need to learn how to do something, to figure something out, you can go and learn it. Someone can teach you how, and you can learn it. The life skills, being able to care for themselves. But that is, again, only two of the things that we focus on at Acton. The next zone we call self-leadership or interpersonal skills. And this one to me is kind of like the tipping point. So if a child has academic and life skills, that's good. But if they have this one, the self-leadership, it actually opens up a whole nother world for them. So let me explain what I mean by that. Self-leadership is the ability for a person to do those emotional kind of skills, to self-regulate, to coach themselves through a hard situation, to see a friend who's having a hard time and be self-aware enough to know, how can I support that person? Or should I? Because maybe I need to do something for myself right now and it wouldn't be healthy for me to engage with them. But if I have a conflict with someone, how do I control myself enough to engage in a positive conversation to solve that conflict? So think about a family. If this is where we see these kinds of skills lacking or helping a family thrive, these self-leadership skills. And we have to have them to survive as humans together. So if we aren't helping our children gain these self-leadership skills, and they can be learned by every human, but they take practice and they take consistent practice in an environment that allows them to have hard things, to have moments that cause you to be heightened so that you have to figure out what to do with it. And when they're in an environment that allows them to do that, they can learn those skills. I am always amazed every day when we walk into one of the studios, there's some kind of conflict being solved, a resolution coming to at a peace table. So a peace table is a literal formula for how to solve a conflict with someone. Here's what I say. I say, Jane, I feel so sad that you took my purple crayon. And then Jane says, I understand that you feel sad I took your purple crayon. I feel sad that you had all the purple crayons and wouldn't share with me. And I'm like, oh, I understand that you feel sad that I was hogging all the purple crayons. And then we say, what about next time we do this instead? So that's just a simple example of what the learners as young as 5 years old are able to do. And again, I'm lucky that Brad is on this call, but peace tables, this one formula has, like, we have peace tables in our marriage. We don't always love it, but this formula saves families, saves relationships, and your child can learn it at school. And children all over the world should be learning these kind of skills at school. Okay, I told you that was my favorite and I kind of ranted about it, but it's because when we have self-leadership, it opens up the next two zones. The next one is that of community leadership, or having a large or broader influence. If someone isn't able to lead themselves, they certainly can't lead a group of people well. And so this is as small a community as a spousal relationship, then a family relationship, a business that you're leading, a church you're a part of. It can be then it gets bigger and bigger. But the same principles that your child learns in their studio at Acton are the principles they need to be able to have a broad influence if they choose to lead a family, to lead a community, to lead a business. And it all stems from the other skills before it being intact and clear thinking that comes from doing that so that they can lead a community, they can have a bigger, broader influence. And it says there at the bottom to lead large projects, because you've got to take a group of people and mobilize them, get them all aligned in a vision to move forward. And that's the kind of leadership that they get to practice really from the time they're 5 years old every day at Acton, so that they're prepared to do that. And then finally, the big one, we kind of already talked about this, the next great adventure, but this is, I said all parents, we kind of want the same thing for our children. We want them to be happy, thriving adults. And so that's what this one is. It's that they have a mission that they're clear about, that they're on fire about. They understand their gifts, their talents. They know how to lead themselves and lead others so they can do something that they're really passionate about and make a difference in the world. So at Acton, we say we believe every child is a genius who deserves to find their calling and change the world. And that's what we mean, is that there's something specific for every child to do. an important divine work that they are here on this earth to accomplish, we want them to have an awareness of what that is and all the skills they need to go and do that thing. And we're not going to tell them what it is, but we're going to support them and help them have what they need so that they can do that. And that is what it means for children to have a thriving, happy life. So I'm going to pause for a minute. I've just said a lot of stuff. Thank you. I got a thumbs up. Thank you so much. You can think, if you think in your life of who do I know that I think is living a happy, thriving life, they've got elements of this, we call it calling and contribution zone. They are doing something they love. It's impacting others. They're connected with a group of people that they feel purposefully connected to. There's meaning in their work. And so, although we don't have all the words for what it means for our children individually to be successful, you can identify people, and it's because they have all of these 5 real life learning zones as a part of their life, and they're living a mission. And that's what we want for your child. That's what we want for every child. Okay, it just gets me so excited. All right, we'll move on to the next point. I was going to ask if there's questions about that. I'm not going to ask that, but if you have questions, just jot them down because we'll come back to it. All right, so next, this idea that school is ideally positioned to help you prepare your child to thrive in life. If that is why school exists, then when parents choose a school, they are actually choosing a parenting partner. So one of my big missions in life is to help parents realize this shift, that wherever your child goes to school, that is your parenting partner. And if you think about hiring a nanny or even a babysitter for a night, are you just going to choose whoever shows up, whoever is down the street next door? No, you're going to be very deliberate about who you choose to influence your child. Who are you going to choose to help you be a parenting partner? Because remember how many hours our children are in school? More than they're at home. So we need to be so deliberate about where they're at. All right, now I've got another question for you, and I really will need some participation with this. This is an example of what we call a Socratic question, and we do this all the time at the school. So a Socratic question is a question that has no right or wrong answer. But here's my question for you today. Which of the following is most important to help your child be ready to thrive in real life? If you think it's habits, just drop an A in our chat. If you think it's positive failure or like a positive outlook on failure, put a B in the chat. And if you're able to make a quick comment, I would love for you to give me your face on the screen, turn your camera on so that we can just take a few comments on this. It's such a fascinating question. Question. All right, we have 2 B's, a positive outlook on failure. Right now, that is trumping habits as far as which is most important to help your child be ready to thrive in life. All B's so far. All right, I'm going to call out. Is there anyone that says A that would like to speak for A? Oh, there we got one. Okay, hold on though. I think I see Zahida. Did I say your name right?
Zaida.
Zahida, that's beautiful. All right, tell us your thought. Is it habits or positive failure? And tell us why you think so.
I think it's positive failure because we learn from failure, and being able to reframe failure as something that we can learn from that is a positive, I think would be really helpful, especially for children, because we don't want them to think I failed and now I am a failure and now I can't do anything, because then they just go into this negative loop. Whereas we want them to be like, okay, I failed and I learned that I can do this X, Y, and Z differently, and then I'm gonna try again, and I did things differently, but maybe I can try again and do something else differently, and then eventually get to success or whatever, like achieving whatever goal it is that they wanted to achieve.
Got it. Thank you so much for speaking for the B's. Is there anyone else that will, let's see, anyone else show me their face yet? Willing to speak? Who will, there is only one A in here. Only one person is speaking for habits, and I'm so fascinated by that. Let's hear it. Did you say it's Johnny? Did I remember that correctly? Swigget? Are you there?
Yes,
Okay.
I'm here. Yes,
Okay,
it's
you
Johnny.
said habits. Tell us in one breath why you think habits is the most important to help your child be ready to thrive in life.
It says a lot about your character and it helps you build a routine. And I agree with both A and B. It's kind of like an open question, I guess, but I think A more because about character building, I guess.
Got it. Okay, fascinating. So we aren't going to take this too long, but often we'll ask a question like this of the learners and let them go back and forth and ask them to change their minds. We'll actually invite them to change where they're sitting in the room. Like, okay, if you think it's A, move to this side of the room. If you think it's B, move to this side of the room. And if you change your mind, go to the other side so we can actually see them processing a big question like this of what they think is the most important. And then they speak to why and give us examples from their real life. So, do you remember on our big list how problem solving and critical thinking was one of the big important skills? This exercise of thinking about Socratic questions and having Socratic discussions is one of the best ways ever that this skill can be developed. So now I want to share with you kind of how all of the learning happens at Acton. And this is, I learned this, it feels really important to me because we were trying to solve a problem in our early years at Acton. And I don't even remember what the problem was, but I remember one of our guides, actually, Miss Leanne, who's on our call, she said, I want to tackle, I don't know what it was, keeping the studio clean, or I want to tackle hard work. That was her problem that she had identified. And in that moment, I was like, ooh, at Acton, we tackle challenges differently. And I think it's really important for you as you're looking into Acton or another school environment to figure out this, what I call the tackle box. So the tackle box formula is the idea that we need to look to develop attributes. It's most important our children have attributes, character traits and attributes, and that they see themselves that way. So at the very top, we want to develop attributes. Well, guess what? You can't just make someone learn to have an attribute. So then what do we do? If we can't make them or like give them an attribute, well, then we'd realize or we talk through what skills or habits, if practiced often enough, will help someone theoretically develop that attribute. So then we identify those. And then once we identify those, we think, all right, what challenges can we issue to our learners that if they engage with the challenges deeply enough, they will practice the skills and habits they need often enough to then become a person of integrity or a person of kindness or whatever the attribute is that you're developing. But it's a very intentional way. And you can use this at home. You can use this with your family. You can use this at work and in your business. I'm going to issue a challenge to practice a skill or habit that, if done enough, hopefully the person becomes a person with this high level, high character attribute. And so at Acton, we consider ourselves game makers and we ask, what game can we play to practice this skill or habit? And as the learners do that often enough, then they become very capable of these high level skills and habits and eventually become people of great character. So everything we do at Acton is done with two things in mind. It's, does this apply to the real world? And what kind of character are we building? And if we're not doing something with those two things in mind, then we shouldn't do it. We should stop. And unfortunately, our traditional school system, and it's the system, I'm not talking about teachers or administrators, it's just not designed for this. It's not designed to develop attributes deliberately. It's designed for something else completely. It's a different game. So at Acton, we're changing the game of how we play school. We are choosing a parenting partner deliberately to help our child develop attributes that will serve them for the rest of their life and ultimately help them live a thriving and happy life. All right, now we'll move on to sort of our third point for today. And this is what I was just talking about, that attributes are gained by skill practice, skills are gained by engaging challenges, and what matters most is learning to be. And that's what we call this skill of attributes. Who is your child learning to become? What are they becoming in their day-to-day, in and out environment? And I can't answer that for you. I don't know where most of your children go to school yet, but I can tell you from my own experience, even in my own home, we weren't always that focused on who are we becoming. We were focused on what are we doing? What are we not doing? A lot of focus on what are we not doing, but not always who we are becoming. So as we partner with parents at Acton, we want to shift that to who are we becoming? Not only who is my child becoming, but who am I becoming? And together we're all working to become better, to be thriving and happy people, because we have this new lens of how to look at life and how to jump into challenges, how to become different than who we were before, and hopefully in a positive way. So now I want to share with you our mission at Acton. And this is, this is what it is. We fiercely trust children to do 3 things: dream their own dreams, make real choices and be allowed to fail, and take 100% ownership for their thoughts, beliefs, words, and actions. Oh my goodness, I'm kind of choking up right now. I don't know why it hit me in this moment, how vital that number 3 is. That's that middle section. The yellow real life skill of self-leadership is taking ownership for how we show up in the world. Because when we take ownership and our children take ownership, they're unstoppable because they realize it's my choice. And whatever my circumstances are, I have the power to change them. I can change myself and I can change my circumstances. And that's the most empowering, incredible gift I think anyone can give to any other person, let alone our children, to help them know that it's you. You own not just your learning, but you own your life, and you get to do with it what you're going to do with it. It's beautiful. I get so excited. We fiercely trust children to do those 3 things so that they have the confidence, character, and real world skills they need to find their calling and change the world. And I kind of talked about that earlier. That's that last section. Everything, when it lines up, leads up to them being able to find their calling, their divine purpose, and change the world. And they have the confidence, character, and the skills they need to do it. And that's what the school is all about. It's very different, very crazy. Sometimes we don't even think we should call it a school, but we don't know what else to call it because we do learn academics, but it's just for a completely different purpose. So now I just want to give you an invitation to, I think next slide, Leanne, thank you. You'll soon learn, if you haven't already, that at Acton, we don't give answers and we don't lecture. This is a completely new approach to how we do school. We let children become the hero of their own story. So if you haven't started reading the book Courage to Grow yet, it's the story of how our school got started. And you'll get to see this come to life in like a story form in the book Courage to Grow. So I invite you to go ahead and get that book. We have copies at the school, and it's also on Audible and Kindle. So this new approach to school, and it'll give you a deep dive into how can a school not answer questions? How can there be no teachers at this school? And how does anyone learn anything? So I've given you a little insight to that with our, when we talked about the tackle box, but this book you'll definitely want to read. It'll help you be a better parent. It will help you to choose a school deliberately, and certainly help you know if you want to choose Acton or apply to Acton for your school. So finally, just wanted to share with you that Acton, oh, there it is, Courage to Grow, that we really aren't a school. We don't know what to call ourselves, but we're a launch pad for life. It's where young heroes discover who they are and how they are meant to change the world. And we just want to partner with parents that feel that that is also their first and most important responsibility as a parent, is to help their child become who they're meant to be. And thank you so much for staying to the end of our discussion today. I do have a free gift for you for being on with me today and for staying. We call this our at-home wonder kit, and it's just sort of It's good for any age, a collection of how to increase the curiosity in your home. We have some questions, guided questions for you to ask. We have some, I think there's like a,
Thank you, Michelle.
oh, thank you. No, it's just a PDF. We'll send it out to you guys for being on the call. And no matter what you choose for your school, I'm grateful that you want to increase the curiosity in your homes and that you're being so intentional with your child. Um, and
Michelle,
yes, yes,
I didn't mean to interrupt you. I'm so
you're good.
sorry. I
You're good.
apologize. I just have a quick question. I don't know if you saw on the app. One of the reasons that I gravitated towards your school and your outlook on things is because it says you also assist children on the spectrum or other disabilities. Is that correct?
Yes. Okay. Let me answer that. I just want to thank you so much for letting me know that that question was there. I wanted to tell everyone on the call that I'm going to be officially done. If you want to move forward and book a tour, you just need to reply to your text with the word tour, and we'll make sure that you get scheduled for a tour. We're in our last week of school next week, but that's kind of your next
Awesome.
step. Get courage to grow, and then just reply tour, and we'll get you scheduled for a tour at any of the 3 campuses.
Okay.
Usually Mr. Brad leads those. So at the end of our discussions, we always say 3, 2, 1, break. So I'm going to do that, and then I will take questions. If you're done and don't have questions, or you don't feel like this is the place to ask your question, thank you for being on. And I will just give you a clean break. You can hop off and a happy wave. Thank you for being on today. Again, sorry about our technical difficulties. Okay, so 3, 2, 1, break. All right, that's our official end. And now I would love to take questions. So I will answer briefly so that everyone sort of gets a sense of
Okay.
what they need. And then let's see, Leanne, do you want to stop sharing maybe? Or maybe you did already, but okay. So when it comes to special learning needs, the answer is a little complicated. It's like, yes, maybe. So if a child is really determined to learn and they are willing to own their own learning journey, a lot of times we can work with them. But it isn't like across the board, yes, we work with children with disabilities, or no, we don't. It's
Okay.
really an individual choice. It's, we have one of our graduates who had severe dyslexia, but he was on a Zoom coaching dyslexia call every week. He worked 3 times harder than anyone else and graduated with high honors. And
I can imagine if they're directed, from us, as you said, I've homeschooled myself before and am currently, and like you said, you used to, Michelle, and now you're doing Acton, which is wonderful. But, if we encourage them and give them an opportunity, like you said, to grow and learn yes and no, good and bad, to build up their character, they're going to thrive no matter what.
yes, it is hard because there are certain markers that they need to meet, and we can
Right.
often work with them. So we want them to have a plan that really makes sense for them and can be somewhat individualized, but it's just completely up to, it's a one-by-one basis. So I'm sorry I can't
Gotcha.
give a better answer than that. But that's why we do a tour. That's why we have them come for a visit date if we're in school. That's why we have them do an audition, a video audition, so we get to know them better, so that hopefully we make a good, choice together
Okay.
if we can serve them. Okay, we have a
All
couple other
right.
questions here. Do we bring kids for the tour? Jenny, the tour is designed for the adult parent.
Oh, good
And
question.
yeah, we love children, obviously, at Acton, and we always want them to feel welcome, but the parents have a better experience if the children aren't there. So if you'll just, plan to set aside 2 hours, get a sitter, or do it while they're at a summer camp or something to come, um, you'll have a different experience if your children aren't there. And then we love to have them come to see the school at another time, so that they also feel good and can experience the environment. My unique, what's the application process is if the learner has been awarded the TIFA scholarship. The process is the exact same for us. If you've chosen us as your TIFA approved school, you just put that in your Odyssey account. You go through the audition process. At the end, we decide together, are we the right fit? And then we just approve or release your student, back into the marketplace so you can choose a school that better suits you. Okay, here's one. And you guys can turn your cameras on and turn off mute. We can have much more open conversation now. All right. I love this. Let's see. I understand the program encourages independent problem solving. If a child hits a roadblock, is struggling to understand something, how does the teacher or guide explain it? Very good question. Okay. Um, yeah. So there's just so much with this one, but I feel like math is our easiest way to illustrate what it looks like. So in a traditional setting, the teacher is the expert. They are where the information is disseminated from. So at Acton, the information can come from lots of different places. And so one of our, I guess, formulas, if you call it, is brains, books, and buddies. So if someone's stuck, did you really think through the problem? Did you use your brain first? Did you try hard? Okay. Books. Did you use your resources? Did you look it up? Now, books, they get mad at us now because they're like, it's books or Google. But did you use your resources to figure it out? And this is such an important piece because oftentimes the learner doesn't actually fully understand what they're asking. They're just like, I can't do it. But if they can figure out the right question to ask, they're like almost to solving the problem. Figuring out the question to ask is actually the more important skill. So by having to go to their resources, brains, books first, then they are actually in the process of solving the problem. And then they can also ask their peers, buddies. So we ask that they use brains, books, and buddies before they approach the guide. If they've done all of those, that shows that they're putting their effort in, they're working hard. They can ask the guide a question, and the guide is always open to receiving questions. But a guide won't give an outward answer. They will give options or choices to help them solve the problem themselves. So it isn't that the guide isn't there to support their learning. It's that they aren't just going to tell them the answer, which is often the traditional role of a teacher, is to disseminate the information. They're going to help the learner be in a position to find the answer themselves. And hopefully you can see how in the future, then they're able to do that on their own more and more and more. They become an independent learner. And so sometimes they're stuck, but there's tons of ways to solve a single problem. And the guide's always there to support and offer choices and assistance. They're just not going to teach them outright. So we also use online programs where there are teachers that answer questions. They give instruction, and it's not all fully online, but there is almost always an answer in so many different places. We help them know where to look so that they can figure it out for themselves.
How much,
Okay. Yes, go
sorry,
ahead.
how
No,
much
please go.
tech is involved in the classroom?
I didn't. Oh, how much technology? Is that what you said?
Yes.
Okay, what age are you thinking about? Because that,
A 7, my son is 7, he's in first grade, so he'll be going
okay.
into second.
Okay, when does he turn 8?
March of next year.
Okay, so in our youngest studio, which we call Discovery, that's ages 5 to 8, there is no technology. So it's a
Oh,
Montessori studio, completely hands-on, there's no technology. When they transition to elementary school, that's when they begin to use some online learning platforms. And so they use them sporadically throughout the day, but the way they use them differs. So, like, there's 30 minutes of focused math time. And then the rest of the day is somewhat like, if I'm practicing my typing, I'm online, or I might be over here, writing a story with my friend with pencil and paper, perhaps. So there's a lot of flex in how they use it. They do, once they're in that elementary and up, they track all of their learning in an online platform called Journey Tracker. So they don't do that in the youngest studio, but once they're 8, they do that the rest of the time. So that kind of becomes it's like a portfolio. It's how the guides deliver their challenges. So it's definitely, trying to think of the right word for it. It's like a foundation of how they do their work and accomplish their work, even though it's not like necessarily giving them all the information. It's not like they're sitting on it learning all the time, but it gives and keeps their information. I don't know if that makes sense. It's like a
currently,
platform to hold their work and deliver challenges. So,
my son is at a Harmony school, and so like they've had tech in kindergarten,
okay.
they had tech in first grade,
Hmm.
and they do different apps,
Yeah.
and they also I think I don't know how much like research they're doing,
Uh-huh.
but I do know that there's like guided learning in the apps that they're doing.
Got
Uh,
it. Yeah, so actually, just since we're on this topic, and I'll be very quick about this, our overall philosophy when it comes to technology is why our youngest ones don't actually have it.
okay,
So, we say that technology is a tool, not a toy. And so our learners, we
I
want them to
agree.
use to learn it as a tool, and that we should use technology to create, not consume. And so in those younger ages, we shy away from it. Honestly, the learning for the younger ages is just much more rich when they're not on the computer, in my opinion. But it's also very hard for them to differentiate between, am I using it like a toy? Am I using it to create or to consume instead of create something? So we just kind of keep that little protected younger ages. And then as they get older, really, we again partner with parents to deliberately help them use it in ways that will set them up for a life of success, hopefully, and not just, yeah, consuming stuff all day long and that doesn't benefit them. Jenny, do you have a question?
No, it was the same. My daughter's going into fourth grade, and so I was curious about the screen time.
Mhm.
My additional question would be like, what happens if a child struggles with like self-management or being motivated or, taking that ownership that you keep talking about? Like,
Yeah, well,
what does that look like in practice?
we expect that they do because they're humans and we're all humans and we come kind of programmed to not do that. So I kind of heard two different questions. So I'll address a couple of different things. And then if I don't talk about what you're talking about, let me know. So the first, and I don't think this is what you're asking, but it's worth mentioning, is if they don't have that self-regulation or they get really emotionally heightened. In every studio, there's a place, it's called the calming corner or somewhere where it's okay. Like big emotions are a part of who we are. It's figuring out how to work with them so they can go to the calming corner. There's set a timer, calm themselves down, presence their mind to where they're at and what they need to do next. So I don't think that's what you're asking, but that is an important part of this environment where things are sticky, like things are not controlled. So there's hard things that happen. And we want them to do that because we want them to figure out how do I need to bring myself down in those moments. But what I really think you're asking is about like motivation to work. Am I? Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's my question.
So, children we come into the world being natural learners and we're kind of taught out of it. A lot of times because learning isn't very fun or engaging, once we get to like first, second grade. And so we don't expect them to come in with that, but each studio, depending on the age, has different motivators that help them develop the habit of getting back to hard work and enjoying it along the way. So I'll just give you a couple of examples. In the Voyager studio, which would be the fourth grade age, every day they set their goals. And then if they meet their one math lesson and their, 5 points in reading or whatever it is, and for each one of those, they earn a coin. And that coin turns into something that then they can spend for additional freedoms in the studio. So it isn't like we're like forcing them, but there is definitely a social and personal motivation to like play the game, to just do the thing. And so that we value internal motivation first and most importantly, but having extrinsic motivators like a coin or a sticker that build up over time helps them develop the habit that where then that more internal motivator, oh well, this is so fun to learn, or I love learning, or it feels so good to work hard, that can kind of grow inside of them as they develop those just the habits of hard work and focus. So Brad, it looked like you popped on. Did you want to address this one? All of a sudden, his face was back. Did you wanted to share something with Jenny? You're muted.
I know I had to find the mute button first. I only thing that I wanted to add maybe to that is that they learn it the same way that you and I had to, except it's more hopefully engaging and exciting, right? I mean, we're faced with, well, we get to face failure because they will fail at that at some point. And it's like, okay, what do we do with that? Well, I missed, they do excursion, they'll have a field trip. It's one of the motivators. I didn't get to go on the field trip. What did you have to do to go on the field trip? Well, I had to do this, this, and this. Okay, what kept you from doing this, this, and this? Oh, I didn't want to, or I was distracted, or whatever. And so they get to face the same things that you and I do when we show up to work and have to find motivation and learn how to fail through all of those things in safe ways where it's okay. It's, what happened? I missed this trip. Okay, well, there's another one in 6 weeks. There's a whole nother trip. What are you going to do different to show up? And so they get to learn and grow in ways that are safe, that feel very heavy or important because they are important to them, but that it's actually okay because there's something else coming around the corner. And there are daily, weekly, and sessionally systems that walk them through all of those habits and building those. And over the course of the 16,000 hours that they practice that while they're at our school, they become masters of all of those things. So that's all.
Thank you.
Okay, other questions? We've just got a few people left, and I don't want to keep you on longer than any of you need to, but is there anything else burning or confusing
How
or
much outdoor time do they get? Like, I know a recess, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, good question. So the youngest ones in Discovery, they have about 2 hours a day with a big chunk in the middle of the day.
Okay.
So yeah, outdoor time really important. We want them to get that sunshine. Some of the most important learning happens outside when they're just out playing. And then our elementary and middle school and up, they have an hour of lunchtime, lunch slash free time in the afternoon, and we are pushing them outside. It's not as successfully as the younger ones, but they have at least an hour elementary, usually 15 additional minutes in the morning. We call them body breaks, and then 15 in the afternoon. So, and then there's PE time too. So,
piggybacking off of that, is that all unstructured time? That outdoor and lunchtime is unstructured?
yep. Other than if it's PE time, it's like a self-structured. So if one of them wants to lead a game, or there might be a PE captain and they vote on what they're playing together. So some people might still call that unstructured. It's more structured because it's more of a group collaborative effort, but pretty much primarily it's even that we could call unstructured probably most days.
PE is separate from the lunchtime?
Yes, if for the youngest studio, there isn't a separate PE time.
Okay.
The studio that you're thinking of, yeah, they get plenty of activity in their time outside. The elementary studios, often they have an organized PE time where they play games, and I don't know, we don't know what they do, whatever they do. Anything else burning? Or even about your next steps and what you need to do now?
We just replied tour and
Yep,
then
that should work. Yep.
And does it matter which school, or like will we figure that out when you contact us?
Yeah, so someone will reach out to you to get that scheduled, and then we'll figure out which one makes the most sense for you to visit based on mostly your location. But if you're unable to visit one for a certain day or something, you can come to a different location. So
Are there different concentrations, or like what's the difference between the different locations? Like, do you have different focuses, or they're
just
all
location. Yep,
Okay.
our team works all together, pretty much doing the same thing
Okay.
across all the campuses.
There is one difference, and yours is younger, if I'm not mistaken, but
Yeah.
at our Magnolia campus.
Sorry, I have two. I have a 4-year-old that turns 5 in January, and I have a 7-year-old that turns 8 in March, and I received TIFA funding for both of them. So I
Perfect.
definitely want to get them into a place that has more movement. I'm a COTA, so I work with special needs children, and I just have like it burned into my brain that if they're not playing, they're not learning.
Yes,
There's
we
not
agree.
enough play in public school.
What were you going to say, Brad, was the difference?
Yeah, the only difference is our Magnolia campus is where our launch pad exists currently. Eventually, all of the schools will have that last 2 years of high school, the launch pad, but currently it's only one location, and that is a numbers, the purpose of that is numbers. We want to make sure there's a concentration of. Once our numbers grow enough to where there's enough of those juniors and seniors attending at the same time, will break out to the different campuses. So the intent will be they will be the same, but currently Magnolia is the only one that has a launch pad.
Okay. And are you accepting 4-year-olds?
Or turning 5, possibly. It
Okay.
depends. It depends entirely on the child and what they're ready for.
Okay.
We always say let the babies be babies, and that's not a knock on them or an insult like, oh, you're such a baby. No, like we want the young ones to be young and just be able to have as much of that as possible and what makes sense for the family. But for turning 5, we do allow them to join.
Okay. He's currently he's been in a Montessori school since he was 18 months.
Oh, wonderful.
So he's that is all he knows, really, is the Montessori approach.
Yeah, so technically the answer is no. We start at 5, and sometimes we'll do a trial and see if we've liked they're ready. So, and it sounds like he might be because he's already familiar with a lot of the things we would need him to do. So,
Okay. Thank you.
yeah, absolutely. Jenny, anything else for you?
Nope,
No.
that's it for now. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys for being on, and thank you for hanging on with our technical. We got to figure out what went wrong, but it's usually me. So that's probably what went wrong. Appreciate you guys. If there's any support we can offer, reach out. Our team is excited to get to know you, and Brad and I will both be talking more with you as well as
My
you go
last
through this.
question is about hours. What are the school hours?
Oh yeah, good question. So 8:15 to 3:15.
8:15 to 3:15.
Yep, Monday through Friday. And then every 6 weeks, we take a week off. So that is important to note as well.
Oh, every 6 weeks there's a week off.
Yep.
And then
Sometimes it lines up with a holiday break, like Thanksgiving is our, week off. Then we're in for 3 weeks, and then we're at a Christmas break. It's usually in the middle of the typical spring breaks is our 6 weeks, but yep, pretty
so do
much
you
6
take 2
weeks
weeks
on.
off for winter break, or is that?
Mhm.
Oh, okay. You
Is
do.
it 2, Brad?
I think it's 3, actually. I think it
Yeah.
is a 3-week break. It's so traditional schools typically are 2.5 weeks. And the way that the learning arc works, a half a week is not actually valuable, and time with family is. And so we try not to take them away from family when it's not valuable. I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah, so we generally are going to be Monday through Friday. There are currently 2 exceptions on the calendar holiday wise, and that's Labor Day and Memorial Day, which actually Memorial Day is irrelevant now because we're usually done by Memorial Day for the summer. But Labor Day is, I think it's the only Monday now that we have off. All of the other Monday holidays, like Columbus and Presidents and Martin Luther King, we call them optional, but we will be here. So we're here for families if they want their child here, but if they want to keep them home because they have other children that are staying home or whatever, or they want to be on that 3-day weekend, whatever, take your child. Like I always say, the constable will not be knocking on the door to see where our child is.
Okay. Thank you for explaining.
Sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you guys so much for being on. Appreciate your time, and please reach out if you have other questions or have other needs, let us know. Thank you. So good to meet you.